The punishment. She stood before the High Council, tall and proud, her silver armor still marked with the scars of battle. The chamber was silent, except for the echo of her breathing. Her people had never seen her kneel, not in war, not in peace. But today was not about her victories. Today was about her crime. The council leader rose, his ancient eyes filled with cold judgment. "You broke the code," he said. His voice shook the room like thunder. "You disobeyed orders. You risked the lives of your own kind. Pride has blinded you, and pride must be punished." She did not bow her head. Her jaw tightened, her eyes glowed with defiance. She was a warrior of the Xylar Dominion, feared across galaxies. She had crushed enemies twice her size, conquered planets with nothing but her blade. And now these old fools dared to judge her. "What is my punishment?" she asked, her voice sharp like steel. The chamber doors opened, and the guards dragged in a prisoner. But not one of her kind, not a rival, not a monster. No, what stood before her was small, fragile, soft-skinned. "A human." The council murmured, their voices like wind against stone. The leader raised his hand. "Your punishment is this," he declared. "You will be bound to this human. By law, by oath, by union. You will marry him." A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. She laughed, a bitter, angry laugh that cut through the silence. "You insult me, a warrior, a conqueror, to marry a weak creature from a dying planet? This is no punishment. This is humiliation." The council leader's voice turned colder. "That is the point. You will live with him, serve with him, protect him. You will call him husband. You will share your life with him until your final breath. This is our judgment." Her fists clenched so hard her claws cut into her palms. Her blood dripped onto the shining floor. She wanted to roar, to strike, to tear the walls down with her bare hands, but the guards pressed closer, their weapons ready. She knew, if she resisted now, they would not hesitate to kill her. Her eyes flicked toward the human. He stood silently watching her. His eyes were strange, not fearful, not mocking. Calm, curious, almost steady. She hated that look. She wanted him to tremble before her power. But he didn't. The council leader spoke again. "This marriage is binding. Refuse and you will be stripped of rank, of title, of honor. You will be exiled from our world, nameless and forgotten. Choose, warrior. Do you accept your punishment?" The chamber felt like it was closing in on her. Exile was worse than death. A warrior without a name was nothing. Nothing at all. Her heart raged, but her mind was sharp. She had no choice. Her voice was low, dangerous. "I accept." The council struck their staffs against the floor. The sound thundered through the hall. The judgment was sealed. The human stepped forward, escorted by guards. His movements were careful but not weak. He met her gaze without flinching. She stared at him with eyes full of fire, trying to see what trap lay hidden behind his quiet face. But he gave nothing away. As they were led out of the chamber, the whispers of the council followed them. "A warrior bound to a human. She will learn humility, or she will break." Outside, the sky of her homeworld burned with two suns. She looked at the human again, walking beside her with steady steps. She had fought beasts taller than mountains, ships that blackened the stars. But this punishment felt different. Her mind screamed rebellion. She swore silently. "I will never bow to him. I will never call him husband. I will never be broken by this. And yet, deep inside, something unsettled her. Something she could not name. The way his eyes did not avoid hers. The way he walked as if he was not being dragged into doom but simply walking beside her. It was supposed to be humiliation. It was supposed to be shame. But why in that moment did it feel like something far more dangerous had just begun? The human. The ship carried her away from the council chamber, its engines, whispering like ghosts in the silence of space. She sat in chains, her claws tapping against the metal restraints, her eyes burning with rage. She had faced armies and never bowed. Yet here she was, chained beside a creature so small, so fragile, it almost insulted her pride. The human. He sat only a few feet away, unchained, as if he was no threat at all. His hands rested on his knees, calm, steady. His eyes, those strange, human eyes, were fixed on her, but not with fear, not with pity. He looked at her the way a hunter studies a beast in the shadows. Silent, patient, waiting. Her lips curled in disgust. Do not look at me, human. You are nothing, less than nothing. He didn't answer, not even a flinch. His silence made her angrier than any insult could. The ship's lights flickered as it entered warp. For a moment, darkness swallowed them, whole. And in that darkness she felt it, a shift in the air, like the faint hum of hidden power. When the lights returned, the human's gaze had not moved, still fixed on her, still steady. Something twisted in her chest. No human should be able to look at her like that. She was taller, stronger, deadlier. Her very presence made enemies tremble. Yet this one looked as if he had already measured her, already decided something about her fate. She snarled. Speak, human. Or has fear stolen your tongue? Finally, he spoke. His voice was low, calm, almost soft. You don't scare me. The words struck harder than any blade. No one had ever said that to her. Not even her enemies in battle. For the first time in her life, she felt something dangerous coil inside her. Uncertainty. She bared her teeth, leaning forward until her chains strained. You should fear me. I could crush you with one hand. The human tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle. Then why don't you? Her chest burned with fury, but she could not answer. The ship landed. Metal doors hissed open, and the guards pulled them both out into a strange world. Not hers, not his. A neutral place chosen by the council. A world where they would begin their union. She marched ahead, her chains biting into her wrists. The human walked beside her, unchained, unbroken. Each step he took was quiet but firm, and the sound of his boots on the stone floor echoed in her ears longer than it should. The chamber they entered was small, dimly lit, with only 2 chairs and a table between them. The guards left, the doors, sealing shut with a heavy clang. Now, it was just the 2 of them. Silence. She sat slowly, her eyes never leaving his. He sat as well, folding his hands on the table like this was nothing more than a meeting. Her voice dripped with venom. You are my punishment, that is all. Do not think you matter to me. The human's lips curved, not into a smile, but something colder. We'll see. Her claws dug into the table, carving deep marks into the metal. Something about his words, his tone, the way he said them, it unsettled her. She wanted to roar, to silence him, to prove her strength. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because deep down, she felt it again. That strange, dangerous pull. The council had bound her to a human, believing it would humiliate her. But as she stared into his calm, steady eyes, she began to understand the truth. This was no punishment. This was a test. And she wasn't sure who would survive it, her or him. The first touch. The room was cold, silent. The walls hummed faintly, with the energy field that kept them trapped together. She paced like a caged beast, her chains clinking against the floor. The human sat still, watching her with that maddening calm. Every time her eyes met his, she felt it, the strange weight of his gaze. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't weak. And worst of all, he wasn't looking away. Finally, her patience snapped. She slammed her clawed hand on the table, cracking the metal in 2. Do you understand what I am, human? I could end you before you breathe your next word. He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward, resting his hand on the broken edge of the table. His skin brushed against hers. Just for a second. It was enough. Her body froze. The moment his skin touched her, something impossible surged through her veins. Not pain, not weakness, fire. Heat unlike any battle she had fought, a storm that set her heart pounding in her chest. Her breath caught in her throat. She yanked her hand back as if burned, but the fire didn't leave. It spread, coiling inside her, refusing to die. Her eyes widened. No enemy had ever made her tremble. No blade had ever pierced her spirit. But one accidental touch from this human, and she felt undone. He saw it. She knew he saw it. The way her hands shook, the way her eyes betrayed her. But he didn't mock her. He didn't boast. He simply spoke, his voice quiet, steady. Now you understand. Her claws dug into her palms until blood dripped down. She snarled to hide the fear racing through her. What are you? The human tilted his head as if considering the question. His lips curved into something between a smile and a challenge. Your husband. Her chest heaved. Anger, humiliation, desire. They tangled inside her like chains she couldn't break. She wanted to kill him. She wanted to crush him. She wanted to touch him again just to feel that fire once more. She hated herself for it. You are nothing, she spat, her voice cracking in a way it never had before. Nothing! He leaned closer, his hand still resting where hers had been. If I am nothing, then why are you shaking? Her knees almost buckled. She stumbled back, pressing herself against the cold wall, as if distance could protect her from what just happened. But the truth pressed harder than the chains on her wrists. She had begged for many things in battle, mercy, victory, blood. But never before had she begged her own body to stop betraying her. The council had meant this union to break her spirit. But now she realized something far worse was happening. This human wasn't breaking her. He was changing her. And that terrified her more than death itself. The struggle. She couldn't sleep, not because of the chains, not because of the cold, but because of him. The human sat across the room, leaning against the wall with his eyes closed, breathing steady. At first, she thought he had fallen asleep, but then, without opening his eyes, he spoke. You're staring. Her claws flexed. She hadn't realized she was. She turned her head away sharply, but the damage was done. I wasn't, she hissed. You were, he said calmly. Like stating the color of the wall. Her blood boiled. She had survived battlefields filled with fire and screams. Yet one human's. Words could make her chest tighten like she had been struck. Why? Why did his voice carry that strange weight, as if he wasn't the prisoner here? But she was. She wanted to shout, to tear the silence apart, but instead she forced herself to breathe. Control. Strength. Discipline. That was the warrior's way. She would not lose herself because of a human's calm. But the fire from his first touch still lived in her veins. It refused to fade. Every time she looked at him, she remembered the way her body betrayed her, trembling under his hand. And the memory made her furious. You are my punishment, she spat finally, her voice sharp. Nothing more. I will never bend to you. At last his eyes opened. They were not soft, they were not kind, they were steady, unshaken. Then stop shaking every time I look at you. Her heart lurched. She hated him for seeing too much, hated him for peeling away her armor with nothing but words. She wanted to strike him, to silence him with raw force. But the truth was worse. She didn't strike because she was afraid. Not of losing to him, but of losing to herself. She turned away again, her voice breaking. You don't understand what I am, what I've done. I don't need to, he answered. I only need to see what you're doing now. And what was she doing now? Trembling. Fighting shadows inside her chest. She was supposed to be unbreakable, yet here she was, shattered by a man who hadn't even raised a weapon. The council had wanted to teach her humility. Instead, they had thrown her into a war she couldn't win. Because how could she fight herself? How could she battle the storm inside her, the storm that roared every time his gaze touched her skin? Hours passed. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't peace. It was a battlefield made of stolen glances and unsaid words. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his hand reaching for hers again. Every time she tried to steady her breath, his calm breathing filled the space instead. She curled into herself, claws digging so deep into her palms that blood stained the floor. "I will not break," she whispered across the room. His voice came soft, steady, merciless. "You already are." Her eyes snapped open, rage burning hot enough to set the air on fire. But beneath the rage, beneath the fury, something else stirred. Something she couldn't kill. Need. And the realization terrified her more than any enemy ever had. The bond the night was heavy. The walls hummed with the same quiet energy, but inside the chamber, silence felt sharper than any blade. She sat on the edge of the bed, chains loosened now but still locked, while the human sat across from her unchained, unshaken. Hours passed like years. She told herself she could endure this. She had endured worse: fire, war, blood. Yet this? Silence pressed harder than any battlefield. Every breath he took dragged her deeper into a war she could not escape. Finally, the silence broke, not with his voice, but with her own. "Why don't you fear me?" His eyes lifted, steady as always. "Because fear gives you power, and I don't give you mine." The word struck her chest like an unseen weapon. No chains could bind her like those words did. No prison could cut so deep. He was not fighting her. He was undoing her. Her claws trembled. She wanted to curse him, to laugh at him, to do anything, but admit the truth: she was tired. Tired of holding her pride like a shield. Tired of pretending his presence didn't burn inside her. When he stood and walked toward her, she should have leapt back, roared, struck him down. But her body betrayed her again. She stayed. She waited. He stopped in front of her, no weapon in his hands, no fear in his eyes. He reached out slowly, as if giving her every chance to turn away. She didn't. When his hand touched hers, the storm returned. Violent, consuming, unstoppable. Heat spread through her veins, fire licked at her skin, and for the first time, she couldn't hide the sound that left her throat. A gasp, sharp and unguarded. Her knees bent, her body trembling. She hated it, she craved it. She wanted to pull away, but she wanted to press closer even more. His voice came low, steady. "You feel it too." She bared her teeth, not in anger, but in desperation. "No." But her voice cracked, betraying her. "I don't." He didn't argue. He didn't need to. His hand tightened around hers, firm but gentle, unyielding yet kind, and her body, her warrior's body that had never bent to any blade, bent now. She leaned into him, her forehead pressing against his shoulder. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that she was betraying her people, her pride, herself. But the deeper truth roared louder. She didn't care. Not anymore. For the first time in her life, she felt something no battlefield had given her. Not victory, not conquest, but peace. The bond had begun, not by choice, not by law, but by something stronger, something primal, something she could not fight. And as his arms circled her, steady and unshaken, she realized the most terrifying truth of all. She didn't want to fight it anymore. The threat, the bond should have been impossible. She was Xylar, born in fire and raised in war. He was human, fragile and soft. And yet, in the silence of that chamber, their hands clasped, their hearts beating in unison. She felt stronger than she had ever felt in battle. But strength comes at a price. The next morning, the walls shook with the sound of voices. Not human voices, Xylar voices, cold, accusing. The council had sent their shadows to watch. She knew the whispers, traitor, weakling, broken. They wanted proof she had fallen, and proof was exactly what they had. She rose, fury in her veins, ready to tear the walls down, but the human caught her wrist. His grip was not harsh but firm enough to stop her. "They want you to fight," he said quietly. "Don't give them what they want." Her claws twitched. Every instinct screamed to rip, to burn, to show them she was still a warrior. But his eyes, steady as stone, held her in place. He was right. The council wasn't trying to punish her anymore. They were trying to destroy her. That night, the whispers grew louder, not just from her people, but from his. Human broadcasts spread across the stars, mocking him. A man enslaved by an alien bride. A fool chained to a monster. His own kind spat his name like poison. She wanted to crush them all, to silence their words with blood, but he didn't flinch, not once. "Let them speak," he said. "They call you weak," she growled. "Then they don't see me," he answered simply. The words unsettled her, because she realized he wasn't weak. He was enduring the same storm she was, maybe even worse, and he stood steady, while she trembled in the shadows. But the true threat came not in whispers, but in shadows moving beyond the walls. On the third night, the alarm screamed. Red light bled through the chamber and the walls shook with the force of explosions. Enemy ships cut through the skies. Xylar rebels sent to end the Union before it poisoned their empire. She tore free of her chains, muscles burning, heart pounding. This was her moment. Finally, battle. Finally, something she understood. The door burst open, guards pouring in with weapons raised. She struck like lightning, claws tearing through armor, rage spilling like fire. For the first time in days, she felt alive. But then she saw it. 3 rebels breaking through the smoke, blades drawn, rushing not for her, but for him. Her heart stopped. The council had never intended this to be just punishment. This was the trap. They didn't want her humbled. They wanted her choice, her pride, or her human. And in that moment, the galaxy held its breath. Would she let him fall? Prove herself loyal to her people, a warrior unbroken? Or would she turn her claws against her own kind, betraying everything she had sworn to protect? The choice. The rebels' blades gleamed red in the firelight as they closed in on the human. For a heartbeat, time froze. She saw his face. Not afraid, not begging, not even bracing for death. Calm. Steady. The same calm that had infuriated her. The same calm that had undone her. And in that moment she knew. If he died, everything inside her would die too. Her roar split the chamber like thunder. She moved before thought, before reason, before pride. Her claws slashed across rebel steel, sparks exploding in the dark. One fell, then another. Blood sprayed across her armor, but she didn't stop. She fought not as the council's warrior, not as the Dominion's champion, but as his protector. Every strike was a vow. Every kill was a promise. No one will take him from me. The last rebel staggered back, clutching a wound, eyes wide with disbelief. You betray your own kind for him?" She stood tall, her chest heaving, her claws dripping. Her eyes burned like suns. "He is mine." The rebel's gaze flicked to the human, still standing steady in the chaos. Then the rebel spat, blood, and whispered, "Then you are lost." He collapsed at her feet. Silence. The chamber was wrecked, smoke rising, walls scorched. She turned, her breath ragged, her hands shaking, not from battle, but from the weight of what she had done. She had chosen, and there was no going back. The human stepped closer. He didn't thank her. He didn't flinch. He simply placed his hand over hers, steady and warm. "You chose," he said softly. She looked at him, her voice breaking for the first time in her life. "I chose you." In the distance, alarms still wailed. The council would come for her. Her people would call her traitor. His people would call him a fool. They would both be hunted, hated, cursed across the stars. But as she felt his hand tighten around hers, she realized something terrifying and beautiful. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. The council had forced her into this bond to break her. Instead, it had remade her, not weaker, not smaller, but stronger than she had ever been. Not a warrior alone, a warrior bound. And as they stood together in the wreckage, her heart whispered a truth she would never say aloud. The punishment was never the marriage. The punishment was realizing I can't live without him.